Welcome to the top 10 tips to help your clients avoid penalties. My name is Arthur Reed. I've been with you on other continuing education courses. And this is one of the ones that I love doing, talking about penalties, because a lot of times when I get into tax season, it's just a time when you're going to stumble across stuff. And realistically, it's oftentimes the easy things that I fail to do that I can see that there's going to be a little bit of a disaster coming down the road. When I talk about tax season, I talk about the practice that I have and the things that I encounter during that year. And there are oftentimes like three phrases I just hate having my clients tell me. And the first one, and I never tell them I hate these things, but the first one is that I don't want to get audited. And if you're currently in practice, and I believe that you are, hopefully it's not your first season that you're going into, but you're talking to a client, they're asking you about some certain types of deductions, and they go, I don't know, I just don't want to get audited. So it's like, this is not going to cause an audit. It's an allowable deduction. This is what we do, and that's how we do it. So that's the first thing. The second one I hate is that when they oftentimes pull out a W-2 for their mother or for maybe one of their kids, they hand it to you and they say, can you do this one as well? It should only take you about 10 minutes. Folks, there's nothing that I do that takes 10 minutes. You're just merely talking with the person and saying, all right, you've got one W-2 for this kid. It looks like, because they only earned $2,000, they're going to get their $25 refund back from their withholding taxes. But then I've got to get all the information about them, make sure I get the right date of birth, make sure I have this, make sure I have that, set up their profile, e-file it, print out it, get the authorization to e-file it before I do that. You know, we're talking about an hour. Is it a hard return? No, but it all takes time and nothing takes 10 minutes. And so I hear that all the time, and I always try never to complain about it, just say, look, I'd be happy to do it. It's probably going to take a little longer than 10 minutes, and then I move on. But the third one that I get a lot of is that, am I going to get penalized? It's a concern that most taxpayers, once they find out that they have a balance due, then the first question that comes is, am I going to get penalized? And when we start taking a look at the different types of penalties that we've had assessed on different taxpayers, there's a real good reason that the taxpayer is asking this type of question, because penalties are a very real part of life. And it's usually around the September time of year, August, September, October, that taxpayers begin getting a rash of penalty notices through the mail for the craziest of things. And that's when the phone call comes in, and that's when you have to start defending it. As a way of background, just to let you know, and I don't like to deal with a lot of history, but you need to know a little bit about why this is such an important topic. Back in 1955, there were only 14 penalties. You know, I remember my mother sitting me on her lap, telling me what those 14 penalties were when I was just a young child. There's only 14 of them. Now there are over 170 penalties. And if I had to add on to these other things that we call penalties, but in fact are like additional taxes, there are even more when you think about that the Supreme Court had to decide whether or not the penalty, as we call it, under the Affordable Care Act is really a penalty or is it a tax. When we think about the additional penalty, as we call it, for an early withdrawal from your IRA account, is that really a penalty or is it a tax? There are even more of these, so that we are in a situation where our practice is really dependent upon us getting a better understanding of all the different penalties that are out there that our clients can be assessed.